Back in the 80s, I thought I was strong enough to work in a children's psychiatric hospital. I loved kids, always wanted them, so I thought this was a good way for me to be involved and help those that could use an adult figure. Many of the kids I saw come in there had real disorders or experienced traumatic events that will probably always affect them. But then there were also cases where the kids just seemed to be a bit more eccentric and their parents didn't know how to handle them, so this was the easiest option for them. I was warned by several people to never let your guard down, always keep an open mind, and don't take everything at face value. But things always look easier until you actually try it for yourself. That pretty much summed me up when I went into this job. One day, we got this little girl I'll call Shelby. Shelby was about 8, I believe, and on the surface, seemed to be a very kind and intelligent girl. When she first came in, she was very quiet and shy, and I usually saw her sitting alone, reading or coloring. When a patient comes in, though, we have an entrance interview to kind of get an idea of what they may be suffering from and what kind of treatment we can do to help them. I didn't get to attend hers, but I heard from other staff that it went pretty normal. She was healthy on the outside, but when they talked to her about her thoughts, all she really said was, "Sometimes I think about bad things, and I can't help it." They tried to clarify, but they said she didn't or wouldn't really go into detail. She wouldn't even specify if it was when she was mad or scared or brought on by a specific incident or anything either. Now, this was normal to see too. Sometimes the kids didn't really open up to anyone for a few sessions, or some sadly seemed to even be rehearsed by parents that just wanted them out. So we were told to proceed as normal, keep an eye out, and report anything she may do or say to us. So doing what I did best, I tried to get the girl to open up some, and maybe even play with the other kids. My thought was, they are still children, so they should still get to play and enjoy their childhood. I approached Shelby multiple times with just small talk and different activities to see if she would be interested in any of them. As expected, she was hesitant, but she slowly started letting her walls down. It was innocent enough at first. She talked to me about her mom, her bedroom, and how much she missed it and couldn't wait to go back. She even told me things that she liked to do, such as quilting with her mom and paper mache. I thought it was pretty impressive and thought maybe I could get the supers to get more craft supplies and do something similar. We had outdoor days on occasions for those that were a lower level threat, and I remember going and playing hopscotch with Shelby. After some time, we stopped and just sat on the bench, talking about random things, when she stopped mid-sentence to ask, "How long do you think it takes for a person to bleed out?" I, of course, didn't know how to respond, so I just said something like, "I have no idea," and asked why she asked. She just shrugged and, as if it was the same conversation we were having, said, "I don't know," as she giggled and returned to our original conversation. I had to tell the staff about it, unfortunately, in case it was a potential safety issue, and they were surprised, saying she wouldn't talk to or open up to anyone else. She had been sharing a room with another low-risk girl, but this conversation made them go in and take any potential dangers or risks out of the room. She seemed a little upset that we had to remove some of their supplies, but she didn't cause a scene or act out or anything because of it. She just seemed to understand. The weird conversations didn't stop though. Again, I was talking to her about something unimportant when she stopped to ask me, "How much force would it take to break someone's neck?" I was stunned and again shrugged like I didn't know, but she continued into this a little while longer. She was holding a stuffed animal at the time and was pretty much acting out what she meant. She continued on asking things like, "I wonder if it would be easier to just squeeze it, or maybe if you step on it, or maybe throw something on it." This whole time, she is acting it out on this little stuffed animal. I did my best to hide my reactions to this, but she didn't seem fazed either, as she then wrapped up the conversation and went back to talking about what we were talking about before. I was in shock. I know it may seem stupid now, but everything about her seemed so normal. I was curious as to what made her like this, and even a little sad that she was so young and had thoughts like those. She shouldn't even know what any of that meant. Again, I went back to the leads and told them what she had mentioned to me and asked me to sit in on one of her interviews to see if maybe I could get her to talk more. I agreed, but the conversation wasn't much more in depth than what I was getting before. We definitely tried to steer the conversations, talking about what she wanted, then changing the subject to something like the above. She would ask what's the quickest way for someone to die. Is it easy to suffocate someone? Can you suffocate yourself? And so on. It was apparently enough for them to agree that she probably shouldn't be sharing a room, so she was moved to a single room. She was not happy with the idea though, and decided that she didn't want to leave her room for about a week. She didn't do anything violent or destroy the room or anything. She just sat at the little desk that was in there, staring at the wall. She even got some of her supplies back, like her paper, crayons, and paint, but when she did use them, they were simple pictures and doodles, nothing like she used to do. When she finally decided to come back out in the living area, she proceeded as she normally did, coloring with a stuffed animal next to her, but she didn't really want to talk with me much, so I left her alone. Everything seemed to be fine. We did our rounds and even had a camera room where security could watch as well. It was the 80s, as I mentioned, so the cameras weren't the best, and they kind of flipped between them all, but they did a great job watching them. Shelby asked for something specific to drink, like orange juice or milk, so I agreed to go get some. I thought I would do a special treat for the kids, as we were able to do that sometimes, and started gathering drinks and snacks with the cafeteria staff. As I was heading back, I heard someone call a code brown. That was when a kid was missing. It didn't happen often, but sometimes they tried to leave, sometimes they just wandered off to hide, so I was on alert and ready to start searching. But I'll say I wasn't too worried at that point, until I got back up to the living area and started hearing more calls for red and all security. Red meant there was violence, and they were calling in for help. That's where I became worried because they were being called to the garden, which was part of the living area. I ditched the cart of snacks and ran towards the area, and to my horror, I watched as security had to pull Shelby off of another girl who had what looked like a pillowcase or something around her neck. The other girl, of course, turned out okay, but she was turning purple and was almost unconscious. Shelby was, of course, punished, meaning she wasn't allowed activities with others or in her room and was locked in her room. I learned from the supers and the doctor that when asked why she did it, she said she just wanted to know what it was like to kill someone and to watch what happened to someone when she did. She had managed to find a blind spot in the cameras and lured over the girl and used her pillowcase to strangle her. This brought on changes to the bedding, among a lot of other things at that point. I learned a valuable lesson from her though. You really can't see everything about a person on the outside, even children. I did hear from one of my friends that worked there that she did end up leaving the facility, but I ended up leaving first. It wasn't as easy as I expected. I'm in pediatrics now and have been since, but I truly do hope that she was able to go on to live a much better life.